Hello, friends. There are places erased from maps, burned out of official records, and guarded more tightly than the gold in Fort Knox. Today you will learn what is truly being uncovered inside the hangars of Area 51. What gospels, capable of toppling world history, lie hidden in the vaults of the Vatican, and to which gods in the form of a giant owl presidents and billionaires pray in the woods of Bohemian Grove. This is not a tourist excursion. This is a descent into a rabbit hole from which there is no escape. Friends, in previous episodes, you showed incredible activity. Thank you so much for that. We would be very grateful if you support this video as well. Hit the like button and write in the comments which city you are watching us from. For you, it is just a couple of clicks, but for our community, it is a huge step forward in growth. Thank you. We begin. Object number 1. Area 51, the playground of the gods. Let us be honest. If you have ever, at least once in your life, looked up at the night sky and asked yourself whether we are alone in the universe, your imagination inevitably sketched the outlines of this very place. Area 51. The very name sounds like a dry, bureaucratic code concealing something unimaginable. For the average person, raised on The X-Files and blockbusters like Independence Day, this place is the holy grail of ufology. Legend has it that everything falling from the sky, without a Made in China or Made in the USA label, is hauled here, into the sweltering belly of the Nevada desert. It all started, of course, in 1947 when the Roswell incident gave birth to modern mythology. The government said, "It's a weather balloon." The public responded, "Sure, and I'm a prima ballerina with the Bolshoi." People believe that inside the base's hangars, beneath layers of concrete and lead, lie the bodies of gray-skinned humanoids with enormous black eyes, that the very spacecraft which crashed is stored there, and that humanity's finest minds, sipping cold coffee, are struggling to reverse engineer its anti-gravity engine. The story gained extra spice from a certain Bob Lazar, a man with a biography murkier than the Thames in the 19th century. In the late 80s, he claimed to have worked in the S4 sector, south of the main complex, reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology. He spoke about reactors powered by element 115, a substance that at the time had not even been discovered by mainstream science. Delusions of a madman, perhaps, but then why does the government spend millions of dollars to erase any mention of his work, as if trying to remove a wine stain from the pristine tablecloth of history? The myth of Area 51 is a mirror of our fears and hopes. We want to believe that the government is hiding aliens from us because the alternative, that we are alone in this cold infinity, frightens us far more. But the irony is that the truth hidden behind the fence might be far more mundane, and at the same time, more terrifying than any Hollywood script. Try to find this place on old maps. It is not there. For a long time, the US government acted like a petulant child covering its eyes with its hands. If I don't see it, it doesn't exist. The existence of the base was officially acknowledged only in 2013, when the CIA, grudgingly, declassified a series of documents. However, acknowledging its existence and inviting someone in for a cup of tea are two vastly different matters. The physical security of Area 51 is a masterpiece of paranoid design. The perimeter is not enclosed by a Great Wall of China. There are no moats filled with crocodiles. Instead, protection relies on emptiness and psychology. The base is surrounded by kilometers of barren desert and mountain ranges. This natural isolation destroys any desire to take a casual stroll. Yet if you, armed with foolishness and a GPS device, still approach the boundary, the first things you will encounter are signs, orange posts, and boards with warnings that leave no room for misinterpretation. Warning: use of deadly force authorized. Not a fine, not a reprimand, but deadly force. This is not like parking in a forbidden spot. You will be greeted by individuals in camouflage, employees of private military companies who guard the perimeter. They ride in white jeeps with no identifying marks, wear uniforms without insignia, and gaze at you through tinted windows with the warmth of a polar winter. They do not engage in conversation, they observe. Yet the most intriguing aspect remains hidden from view. The desert surrounding the zone is riddled with motion detectors and seismic sensors. These devices are so sensitive that they can distinguish a coyote's footsteps from a human's tread based on rhythm and ground pressure. Rumor has it they can even pick up the scent of your fear. Just kidding. Though, who knows how far technology has advanced? Drones and satellites constantly hover in the sky. Every square centimeter is tracked by high-resolution cameras. If you cross, flying into that area means, at best, losing your license forever, and at worst, making the acquaintance of a surface-to-air missile. Even military pilots training at the nearby Nellis Range are terrified of entering that sector, like the devil avoiding incense. Let us imagine the impossible. We have made it through. We are digital ghosts, having infiltrated through the fiber optics of the security systems. We stand on the cracked clay of Groom Lake. The first thing that catches the eye is a massive runway. Its length exceeds 7 kilometers. Why is such an enormous strip needed out here in the middle of nowhere? It is not meant for landing a space shuttle or for accelerating something that demands immense inertia to lift off from Earth before firing engines that operate on principles unknown to modern physics. The base's architecture is utilitarian and boring, like a Soviet housing maintenance office. There are enormous hangars, one of which is so vast that it could conceal a Boeing 747 entirely without removing its wings. But the most intriguing part, as always, lies underground. Rumors persistently speak of multi-level underground complexes descending dozens of stories deep. Down there, eternal cold light from fluorescent lamps prevails. The air is sterile and smells of ozone, with the silence broken only by the hum of massive servers and ventilation systems. What is actually happening in this place? The answer may disappoint fans of Little Green Men, but will delight engineering enthusiasts. Area 51 is the cradle of black projects. It was here, in an atmosphere of total secrecy, that the U-2 reconnaissance aircraft was born. In the 1950s, when it was being tested, pilots of commercial airlines spotted strange silver flashes at an altitude of 20 kilometers, where aircraft were not supposed to fly. This gave rise to half of all UFO reports from that era. The government remained silent, snickering behind closed doors. Better to let them think it was Martians than to reveal our new espionage capabilities. It was here that the legendary Blackbirds, the SR-71, learned to fly. The SR-71 Blackbird, machines made of titanium capable of outrunning a missile. Here, the edges of the F-117 Nighthawk stealth bomber scatter radar waves. Imagine laboratories where they test not alien flying saucers, but drones the size of a coin, or conversely, hypersonic gliders capable of reaching Moscow or Beijing in 30 minutes. Picture rooms packed with captured Soviet equipment, missile guidance systems dismantled down to the last screw to understand how the enemy thinks. But let's leave some room for mystery. There are hangars there whose doors remain closed even to personnel with the highest security clearance, the very ones Bob Lazar spoke about. Perhaps there really is a sport model, a disc-shaped craft glowing with a soft blue light. Perhaps scientists in white coats are peering through microscopes at biological samples whose DNA structure matches nothing on Earth. Or, more likely, they are developing weapons based on directed energy principles that will render gunpowder as obsolete as a stone axe. The atmosphere inside is a blend of a genius-oriented university campus and a high-security prison. Employees reach this place via JAT airline flights from Las Vegas Airport, aboard white aircraft with a red stripe. The call sign Janet is often interpreted as just another non-existent terminal. People fly in, work, fly out, and remain silent. They stay silent for their entire lives. The cost of a single unnecessary word is freedom. Zone 51 stands as a monument to both human paranoia and genius. It is a location where the future arrives 20 years earlier than anywhere else in the world, yet that future is locked inside a cage. Why is entry prohibited? The simplest answer is national security. You do not reveal your cards to an opponent during a poker game. If America is developing an aircraft invisible to radar, it does not want the blueprints to end up on the internet. But there is also a philosophical dimension. Do we really need the truth? Imagine that tomorrow the president steps up to the podium and says, "Yes, we have aliens. Yes, we are communicating with a civilization that is 1,000,000 years ahead of us." What will happen? Faiths will crumble, the economy will collapse, and the awareness of our own insignificance could shatter humanity's collective psyche. Perhaps the secrecy surrounding Area 51 is not an act of aggression, but an act of mercy. They are shielding us from knowledge that we, as a species, are not yet prepared for. We are still children playing in a sandbox, and it is too soon for us to know that beyond the playground lies a dark forest filled with predators. Or, as a cynical character from my favorite movie once said, the finest way to conceal the truth is to put it in plain sight and label it as fantasy. Maybe there has been no secret for a long time now, and everything of importance has been moved to the Dugway Proving Ground in Utah, while we continue to gawk at empty hangars in Nevada like hypnotized rabbits. In any case, Area 51 remains a symbol of the boundary between the known and the unknown. And as long as these signs stand, entry is prohibited. Our imagination will conjure wonders behind them. We leave the scorching desert of Nevada behind. The dust still crunches between our teeth, and the roar of jet engines echoes in our ears. But we must press onward. Our next destination lies on the opposite side of the world, in the heart of old Europe. There are no fighter jets or radar systems there. Silence, incense, and ancient scrolls reign supreme. This place is guarded just as fiercely as a nuclear bunker. Yet, instead of machine guns, it relies on faith and centuries-old dogma. We are heading into the underground of the smallest state on Earth to uncover what the Pope is hiding. Brace yourselves, we are entering the secret archives of the Vatican. Object number 2. The Secret Archives of the Vatican, a library where the silence of God is stored. If Zone 51 is a temple of technology, then the Vatican is a fortress of history edited by the victors. For centuries, the secret archives, or as they have been discreetly renamed in recent years, the apostolic archives, have stirred the minds of conspiracy theorists more than any tales of aliens. The word secret in the name Archivum Secretum originally meant personal or private in Latin, indicating that it was the Pope's own property. But try explaining that to people raised on Dan Brown. To the world, the word suggests, here lies something hidden that will shatter your faith. What, according to truth seekers, does the Holy See conceal? The list is endless and beautiful in its madness. They say that somewhere on the shelves, among scrolls from the 10th century, lies a chronovisor, a device supposedly created by the monk Pellegrino Ernetti in the mid-20th century. According to legend, this gadget allowed one to peer into the past and witness events as if watching television. Ernetti allegedly saw the crucifixion of Christ in the speeches of Cicero. The Vatican, of course, confiscated the device and hid it deeper than the conscience of a corrupt politician, fearing that people would see that history was not at all what the Bible describes. Others whisper about the Gospel of Lucifer, or true texts claiming that Jesus did not die on the cross but fled to Gaul, modern-day France, and left descendants. There are theories that the Vatican has kept correspondence with extraterrestrial civilizations since the Middle Ages, regarding them as angels or demons, or that in the dungeons are hidden proofs that the world was ruled not by kings, but by a secret order pulling the strings for 2,000 years. But the biggest myth is the idea that the Church knows the truth, but hides it in order to preserve its power. People believe that if these doors were thrown wide open, Christianity would collapse in a single day. And you know what? Watching how zealously they guard their documents, one begins to think that there is no smoke without fire. Do not be fooled by the colorful uniforms of the Swiss Guard. Yes, they look like characters from a Renaissance carnival in their yellow, blue, red doublets and with halberds in their hands. But these guys are elite, former soldiers of the Swiss army who have undergone the strictest selection. Beneath their loose-fitting attire, not only are there well-defined muscles, but also modern pistols and machine guns from Heckler & Koch, with barely noticeable communication earpieces in their ears. They are trained to kill with their bare hands while maintaining a pious expression on their faces. The Vatican is a state within a state, and its borders are guarded no less rigorously than the Pentagon. Gaining access to the archives themselves is more difficult than obtaining an audience with God. Entry is granted only to a select group of scholars. But even if you are an Oxford professor with 3 doctoral degrees, you will have to navigate a bureaucratic nightmare. You need a letter of recommendation from an authoritative historical institute. You must pass a security check that scrutinizes your biography back 7 generations. And even if you are allowed in, you cannot simply wander between the shelves like in a public library. You are forbidden from bringing pens. Only pencils are permitted, so as not to damage the sacred texts with ink, as well as phones, cameras, and even food. You request a specific document, and it is brought to you in the reading room. You see only what you have asked for. One step left, one step right, and you become persona non grata. The bunker. That is what they call the modern two-level underground storage facility built beneath the Piña courtyard, the courtyard of the pine cone. It is a reinforced concrete capsule shielded against nuclear attack, fire, and flooding. The climate control system here operates with the precision of a Swiss timepiece, maintaining ideal temperature and humidity for the preservation of parchment. Here, in the heart of Rome, one of the world's most advanced video surveillance systems is in operation. Every gesture you make, every breath you take is recorded. They say that artificial intelligence analyzes visitor behavior, detecting nervousness or suspicious interest in restricted sections. If you believe your private life is a secret, the Vatican will laugh in your face in flawless Latin. Picture that we have bypassed the security. We descend into the cool belly of the bunker. The air here is dry, carrying the distinctive scent of old paper, wax, and centuries-old dust that no filter can capture. The silence here is dense, tangible. It is not merely the absence of sound. It is the weight of millions of words penned by the dead. Before us lie 85 kilometers of shelving. Think about that. 85 kilometers of unbroken history, rolled into scrolls, filed in folders, and sealed with wax. 35,000 volumes of catalogs alone are stored here. We walk along the rows. The light is dim and automatic, illuminating only where we step, pulling the spines of books from the darkness. There lies a scroll 60 meters long. These are the interrogation protocols of the Templars from the 15th century. The Chinon parchment. If you look closely, you can see the trembling signatures of the Grand Masters, confessing to heresy under torture. Here, it is documented how the most powerful order of the Middle Ages was destroyed. Do you smell that, Harry? It is the phantom scent of the Inquisition's pyres. On the neighboring shelf is a letter from Mary Stuart, written to Pope Sixtus V a few weeks before her execution. She begs for the salvation of her soul, knowing that her body could no longer be saved. The paper has yellowed, the ink has faded, yet the desperation within every character remains vivid. Next, here lies the petition from English lords to Pope Clement VI, requesting the annulment of Henry VII's marriage. The document is adorned with over 100 crimson wax seals attached by ribbons. This is the very decree whose rejection spawned the Anglican Church and forever redrew the map of Europe.
It resembles a bleeding wound upon history. We move onward into sections where even scholars are denied entry. The classified department of the Secretariat of State. Within these confines rest documents from the Second World War, the silence of Pius XII during the Holocaust, negotiations with dictators, and financial records from the Vatican Bank that allegedly facilitated the laundering of mafia funds. This is based on hearsay, of course, only rumors. But what lies at the farthest end, in the darkest and most remote corners? Perhaps apocryphal works reside there, gospels excluded from the canon, Gnostic texts depicting the world as a mistake of the demiurge, along with grimoires confiscated from medieval sorcerers, containing instructions for summoning entities whose names are better left unspoken. There is a legend about the Red Room, where artifacts contradicting Christian doctrine are kept. Skulls of creatures known to science, discovered by missionaries in the Amazon jungle.
Ancient maps depicting Antarctica without ice, thousands of years before its official discovery. The light flickers here. The shadows on the walls seem to move on their own. In this place, you physically sense that knowledge is not illumination. Knowledge is a burden. Why are these 85 kilometers of paper so carefully guarded? Because the Church trades in eternity, and eternity must remain unchanging. If it comes to light that some pope in the 10th century was an atheist, or that a key dogma of faith was based on a translation error from Aramaic into Greek, the foundation upon which a billion people's belief rests would crack. The secret archives of the Vatican are not merely a repository of old papers. They are a control panel for reality. By controlling the past, they control the present. They grasp a simple truth that has been forgotten in the age of the internet. Mystery creates sacredness. If you show people everything, the enchantment vanishes. What remains are nothing but grimy politics and human frailties. Perhaps they shield us from our own nature. Picture a manuscript surfacing that incontrovertibly demonstrates either the non-existence of God or that he is utterly unlike our conception. Is mankind prepared for such a shock? Or would we descend into nihilistic disorder? The cardinal who serves as the Vatican's archivist, seated in his lofty ceiling study, undoubtedly views himself as a sentinel at the threshold of insanity. He secures the door with a key, extinguishes the lamp, and departs, allowing dust to gather upon mysteries that might sear the world. We abandon the chilly underground vaults of Rome. The scent of incense gives way. We are venturing into the most secure chamber within the most isolated nation on Earth, where communist ideology intersects with global criminal enterprises. Get your forged passports ready. Our next destination is North Korea, Pyongyang, room 39. Target number 3, room 39. The headquarters of a worldwide covert syndicate. Coordinates: Pyongyang, DPRK, the Central Committee building of the Workers' Party of Korea. A grim joke circulates among intelligence analysts. North Korea is not a state that has a mafia, it is a mafia that has a state. And Room 39, sometimes referred to as Bureau 39, acts as its accounting department, its brain, and its wallet. Officially, this entity does not exist. If you ask a North Korean guide about this place, they will turn pale, flash their practiced plastic smile, and claim you have watched too much Western propaganda. However, the rumors seeping through the most tightly sealed border in the world paint a picture that makes your hair stand on end. It is said that Room 39 was established in the late 1970s on the direct orders of Kim Il-sung. The objective was straightforward and cynical: to procure foreign currency for the leader's personal fund, not for the nation's economy, not to buy rice for starving farmers, but to purchase premium cognac, Swiss watches, Mercedes cars, and components for the nuclear program. The myths surrounding this location resemble the plot of a low-grade spy thriller. Conspiracy theorists claim that this bureau oversees a worldwide network of illicit trade, ranging from gold smuggling and trafficking of rare animal species to the industrial-scale production of methamphetamine. It is said that right here, beneath the portraits of smiling leaders, plans are approved for world-class insurance fraud and cyber attacks on banks. However, the most renowned legend is the superdollar. It is believed that within the depths of printing facilities under the Bureau's control, $100 bills are produced with such quality that even the United States Federal Reserve cannot always distinguish them from genuine ones. This is economic sabotage raised to the level of an art form. While we work, they print. Getting into the Vatican is difficult. Getting into Area 51 is deadly dangerous, but getting into the Central Committee building in Pyongyang is a task straight out of non-science fiction. First, you need to enter North Korea itself. That is already a filter, sifting out 99% of those who wish. You surrender your phones, laptops, your digital soul. At the border, guides are assigned to you who monitor even how long you spend in the bathroom. But suppose you are a ghost. You have seeped into Pyongyang, a stage-set city where on wide avenues there are no cars, and female traffic controllers direct emptiness. The building of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea is a boring gray concrete box, socialist brutalism in all its glory. No signs here indicate the headquarters of world criminality. The best camouflage is grayness. However, security here is paranoid to the point of absurdity. The perimeter is guarded by the Supreme Guard Command, an elite unit whose soldiers undergo ideological indoctrination from birth. They know no doubt. They believe that protecting the leader is the highest purpose of the universe's existence. If ordered to shoot their own parents, they would pull the trigger without blinking an eye. Around the building, there is no internet as we understand it. An internal network called Kwangmyong operates there, completely isolated from the outside. However, for the Bureau's needs, secret dedicated lines have been installed, connecting to the global network through servers in China or Russia. This is the digital gateway through which hackers from the Lazarus Group, a cyber warfare unit closely tied to the Bureau's tasks, rob cryptocurrency exchanges and distribute ransomware. Physical access inside is protected not by retinal scanners, though they probably exist as well, but by a system of total informant reporting. Everyone watches everyone. The cleaner is a lieutenant of state security, the secretary a captain. An outsider here would glow like a radioactive element. Any unauthorized movement in this area leads to a person's disappearance. Not an arrest, an outright disappearance. You are simply erased from reality, along with your family for 3 generations. Let's imagine we are inside. What lies behind doors with a plaque that has no writing, only a number? You won't find villains in leather chairs petting white cats here. The reality is mundane, and that makes it even more chilling. It's an office. An ordinary, dull office, with low ceilings, fluorescent lights, and the smell of cheap tobacco smoked by everyone, from clerks to generals. But look at the desks. Instead of quarterly reports on milk yields, there are stacks of cash, real and counterfeit. Dollars, euros, yuan. Currency here is the regime's lifeblood. It is packed in vacuum-sealed bags, ready for dispatch via diplomatic mail, which customs officials from other countries have no right to inspect. The diplomats of Quinta are essentially couriers for Bureau 39. In one of the rooms sit polygraph experts. They are examining those very superdollars under microscopes. The paper for them, a blend of cotton and linen in a 75-25 ratio, is procured through shell companies in Europe. The color-shifting paint is the same as that used by the United States Bureau of Engraving. They achieve
This place looks like a printing press, except instead of newspapers, they print economic weapons here.
In another section, the luxury goods department. Here, gifts for the party elite are cataloged. Cases of French Hennessy cognac, boxes of cigars, Swiss Rolex and Patek Philippe watches. In a country where people eat grass and tree bark during crop failures, in room 39 they decide which yacht to buy for the leader's leisure. This is surrealism. In the midst of poverty and hunger, an Amazon operates for a single individual. We move on. The drug trafficking department. Here they plan logistics. How to deliver a shipment of high-quality methamphetamine, known on the streets of Asia as ice, across the border with China or by sea to Japan. Maps on the walls are covered with routes. This is a state-run program. Factories that officially produce fertilizers switch to drug synthesis at night. And all of this is overseen by individuals in gray tunics right here, in this office. The atmosphere in these rooms is saturated with primal fear. A mistake here costs a life. If a deal falls through, if the money is intercepted by Interpol, the guilty party will not be fired. They will be executed by an anti-aircraft machine gun at a firing range, as a warning to others. That is why the people working here toil with the diligence of the condemned. The silence is broken only by the clatter of keys and the rustle of currency. Why is room 39 possibly the most significant location in North Korea? Because without it, the regime would collapse within 1 week. Sanctions are strangling the country. Legal trade is nearly impossible. The only way to maintain the loyalty of generals and officials is to purchase it, to buy their allegiance with cars, apartments, and delicacies. Bureau 39 is an artificial life support system for the dictatorship. It is a demonstration that morality is a relative concept. When it comes to the survival of power, any means are justified. The state becomes a criminal because it cannot exist through honest methods. This place must remain hidden as it shatters the myth of juche, of self-reliance. It turns out that the great, self-sufficient power thrives on counterfeiting the enemy's currency and selling drugs to its neighbors. This hypocrisy is on a cosmic scale. If the people of North Korea were to learn that while they die for an idea, their leaders trade in death and deception, the foundation of their faith could begin to waver. Though, more likely, they simply would not believe it. The lie is too monstrous to be true. Room 39 is a monument to corruption, elevated to a state principle. It is a black hole into which dreams of freedom vanish, and from which only dirty money returns. Do you not feel suffocated in those smoke-filled offices of Pyongyang? I do. I long for fresh air, but be careful what you wish for.
The next destination we will journey to will treat you to a fresh sea breeze, but the cost of the excursion will be far too steep. We are traveling to the southern hemisphere, to Brazil. There, in the Atlantic waters, lies an island where human footsteps are forbidden. Not due to military forces, nor aliens, nor treasure. Nature itself has spoken. Here you are not the masters. Here you are the meal. Ready your antidotes. We are heading to Queimada Grande. Object number 4, Queimada Grande. The Island of the Snake God. If Stephen King and Charles Darwin had decided to co-author a horror novel, they would have conceived of Queimada Grande. But there is no need for invention. This fragment of land exists in reality, and it is far more terrifying than any fiction. It is commonly called Snake Island.
The myths shrouding this green hill rising from the ocean are steeped in blood and the romance of pirate. Local elders at Sampa's tavern, after downing 2 shots of cachaça, will recount to you the tale of a vast hidden treasure. Supposedly, in the 15th century, pirates, some say the famous Captain Kidd, though he sailed in entirely different waters, but myths have little regard for geography, hid their plundered Inca gold here. To keep anyone from reaching the treasure, they unleashed onto the island the most venomous snakes they could find in the Amazon jungle. The snakes multiplied, devoured every living thing, and now eternally guard the cursed gold. Of course, from a biological standpoint, this is complete nonsense. Snakes do not live long enough to remember pirates' commands, and there was no need to bring them there in the first place. Yet the legend persists. Another story, far more chilling and realistic, concerns the lighthouse. It still stands on the island, white, solitary, and automated. But it was not always so. Up until the 1920s, a keeper's family lived there, a husband, a wife, and 3 children. According to legend, one night snakes crawled into the children's bedroom window. Not 1, not 2, but dozens. In panic, the family fled toward their boat through the forest, but the forest was already alive. Their bodies were found a week later. They failed to reach the shore by just 50 meters. It is said that every centimeter of their bodies was covered in bites. Since then, the lighthouse was automated and people left this place forever. There is also a tale about a hapless fisherman who docked at the island to pick bananas. He was found in a boat drifting in the open sea. He sat in a pool of his own blood, and his body had begun to decompose even before death. Such is the effect of the local venom. Whether this is true or a horror story for tourists, who knows? But for some reason, there are no volunteers to test this firsthand. The security of Queimada Grande is. There is no fence here, there is no checkpoint. The ocean and the law serve as its guardians. The Brazilian government has officially banned landing on the island. Any landing. This is not merely an administrative violation, it is a federal crime. The waters around the island are patrolled by the Brazilian Navy. Warships regularly pass by, monitoring any vessels that come too close. If you are caught attempting to land, you will face a massive fine and imprisonment. And believe me, prison is the best possible outcome of your expedition. The military is not so much protecting the island from you as protecting you from the island. They act as rescuers who slap your hand away when you reach for a bare wire carrying 10,000 volts. The only people allowed to set foot on this shore are specially selected biologists and herpetologists. But even they must go through an extremely complex bureaucratic process to obtain permits, which takes months. And most importantly, every such expedition is required to include a doctor with a supply of a specific antivenom. Without a doctor, the Navy will simply turn the boat back. The island itself is also not welcoming to visitors. There is no beach with white sand here. The shores of Queimada Grande are steep cliffs and slippery rocks, against which the waves of the Atlantic crash. Climbing up without specialized equipment is extremely difficult. Nature seems to declare, "Get out, you are not welcome here." Let us imagine that, as usual, we manage to bypass the patrols. We step onto the slippery rocks and begin our ascent along the trail that leads toward the lighthouse. All around lies dense subtropical vegetation, ferns, vines, humid heat, and silence. No mammals live here. No rats, no rabbits, no monkeys. They were all consumed thousands of years ago. The only sounds are the calls of migratory birds and the rustling of the. But if you listen carefully, you can catch a faint, dry rustle in the foliage. Welcome to the realm of the island batrops, also known as the golden lancehead snake. This is an endemic species. This snake is found nowhere else in the world, only on this patch of land, which covers no more than 43 hectares. How did they get here? Around 11,000 years ago, when the last ice age ended, sea levels rose and cut this hill off from the mainland. The snakes were trapped. They had no natural enemies, but there was also no prey left on the ground. They had to evolve. Ordinary snakes bite their prey, wait for it to die, and then consume it. But here, the prey consists of birds. If a bird flies away after being bitten, the snake will go hungry. That is why the venom of the golden batrops has become incredibly, monstrously potent. It is 5 times stronger than the venom of its mainland relatives. It acts instantly.
It literally melts flesh, causing tissue necrosis, gastric bleeding, kidney failure, and cerebral hemorrhage. Death comes painfully and quickly. How many of them are here? Old myths used to say, 5 snakes per 1 square meter. Imagine, you take a step, and within a meter radius around your leg, 5 deadly poisonous creatures are entwined. Modern scientists are more modest in their estimates, roughly 1 snake per 50 or 100 square meters. But do not rush to breathe a sigh of relief. These snakes do not crawl on the ground, they hang from trees. You walk along a trail, push aside branches with your hands, and look directly into the pale yellow eyes of death with vertical pupils hanging at the level of your face. They camouflage themselves perfectly. Their golden scales merge with the sunlit reflections on the foliage. In total, according to various estimates, between 2,000 and 4,000 of these creatures inhabit the...
This is the highest concentration of venomous snakes on the planet. The atmosphere on the island is oppressive. You constantly feel eyes upon you. This is not paranoia. You are an outsider in a house where the hosts are armed with biological weapons. The lighthouse you are heading to looks like a ghost of civilization. Rusty machinery, shattered windows. Inside there is neglect and traces of bird nests, and perhaps a shed snakeskin in the corner of a room where children once played. Why is the island closed? Not only for the safety of people. People, as is known, are stubborn and foolish creatures. Nothing will stop them. The island will be closed for the snake's own sake. It sounds paradoxical, but the deadliest killer is itself under threat of extinction. The island Bothrops is listed in the Red Book. Here the price of truth comes into play. The venom of this snake is not only death, it is potential immortality. The venom of viperid snakes contains unique proteins and enzymes that could be utilized to treat hypertension, heart conditions, and thromboses. The drug captopril, which saves millions of lives of hypertensive patients worldwide, was developed from the venom of a close relative of our snake. Just imagine the price of a single gram of golden Bothrops venom on the black market. It costs thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars. This attracts biopirates. These are real people, stalkers from the world of biology, who race through naval blockades in speedboats, land on the island, stuff snakes into bags, and sell them to private laboratories or exotic collectors. They risk dying in agony for profit. The paradox of Ilha da Queimada Grande is that this place is simultaneously a hell and a pharmacy. Nature has crafted an ideal reactor of death, one that could become the key to life. Yet to wield this key, humanity must display a respect and caution it is seldom capable. That is why the island remains closed. This is a sanctuary of horror, where evolution followed a path toward crafting the ultimate predator. It stands as a reminder to humanity. The planet does not belong to people. There exist locations where we are merely soft, defenseless biomass with no say in the matter. Feeling hot? The damp tropical air weighs on your lungs, and the mere thought of snakes dangling from trees makes your skin itch. Let us cool down. Let us cool down in an extreme way. We are journeying to the northernmost reaches of Europe, almost to the North Pole. To a place where the sun does not rise for half the year. To a place where within a granite mountain, atop permafrost, mankind is building its final barrier of defense. Not against aliens, not against viruses, but against hunger and oblivion. We are going to the Doomsday Vault. Bundle up warmly. Our next destination is Svalbard, the Global Seed Vault. Facility number 5, the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. A Noah's Ark for vegetation. Coordinates, the Svalbard Archipelago. The official account claims this is a humanitarian effort, an insurance policy for worldwide farming. If somewhere a war, drought, or epidemic wipes out the crops, we can retrieve samples from here and restore the population. It sounds noble, like a speech for the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony. But let's switch on cynicism mode, my professional tool. Why here? Why this deep? And why does the sponsor list read like a who's who of the world government? The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, Monsanto Corporation, the very folks who gave us GMOs and patent rights on life. Conspiracy theorists, glancing at that list, start nervously twitching an eye. The most popular conspiracy theory states, this isn't a seed vault for everyone, it's a pantry for the elite in case of the apocalypse.
When nuclear winter blankets the planet, or when an artificially engineered virus wipes out 90% of the population, the chosen ones will open the airtight doors, take out pure, genetically unmodified seeds, and begin building a new world on the bones of the old one. Others go even further. They whisper that doomsday is just a code name, and that in reality, in the distant frozen chambers where the press is not allowed, what is stored is not wheat and rice seeds, but DNA. The DNA of the planet's best people, or something even more terrifying, the DNA of long-extinct viruses and bacteria, preserved as a biological weapon of last resort. There is a theory that Svalbard is a eugenics laboratory, a project to create a master race that will repopulate Earth after the Great Reset. It sounds like nonsense, perhaps, but when you see how this concrete wedge cuts into the mountain, you will understand. Such money and effort are not spent to save a few bags of potatoes.
And here they are preparing for something monumental and, likely, irreversible. Reaching the vault is more difficult than it might seem. The Svalbard archipelago is located 1,000 kilometers from the North Pole. Here, the polar night lasts for months. Here, the laws of physics operate a little differently due to the cold. The storage facility itself is situated near the town of Longyearbyen, the world's northernmost settlement, where, incidentally, it is officially forbidden to die. Bodies do not decompose in the permafrost, so the seriously ill and deceased are transported to the mainland. The building's exterior represents a triumph of minimalism and brutalism. A concrete portal emerges from the snow-covered mountainside, extending upward toward the sky. It is decorated with an installation by artist Devika Sana titled Eternal Reflection. The roof and facade are made of steel, mirrors, and prisms, which reflect the northern lights in winter and the midnight sun in summer. This appears beautiful, but it is misleading. It is the beauty of a gravestone. Perimeter security here is left to nature itself. First, the cold. Air temperature rarely rises above zero here. Second, the geology. The bunker is embedded in the sandstone rock at a depth of 120 meters. This guarantees stability even during earthquakes. The elevation above sea level is 130 meters. This is designed so that even if all the ice in Antarctica and Greenland melts, the water would not reach the entrance. Thirdly, the bears. In Svalbard, there are more polar bears than people, and they are the true masters here. Encountering a polar bear without a rifle means 100% death. They are the perfect guards. They cannot be bribed, nor can they be negotiated with. They would simply tear apart any intruder. The technical security is also top-notch. Massive steel doors capable of withstanding a direct missile strike, video surveillance, motion sensors, and satellite monitoring. But there is no permanent armed guard at the doors. Why would there be? Where would you run with a bag of grain at minus 30 degrees, when the nearest shelter is kilometers away across an icy desert? Isolation is the best prison bar. Let us step inside. We enter the code on the panel. The heavy steel door opens with a hiss. The first thing that greets us is a tunnel, a long concrete tunnel descending into the heart of the mountain. The walls are covered with a layer of shotcrete. The light from fluorescent lamps reflects off ice crystals, creating the sensation that we are walking inside a giant diamond. The sound of our steps echoes with a hollow ring. It is very quiet here. The silence is so dense that it begins to hum in the ears. We pass through several airlock chambers. These serve as protection against temperature, and the air grows colder and colder. If outside, the permafrost provides a natural temperature of minus 3 to 4 degrees Celsius, then inside, powerful refrigeration units bring the temperature down to the standard minus 18 degrees Celsius. Minus 18 is a magic number. At this temperature, the metabolism in seeds slows down almost to a complete halt. They can sleep for centuries. Wheat, 1,700 years. Barley, 2,000 years. Sorghum, almost 20,000 years. At the end of the tunnel lies a cathedral, a vast hall from which 3 rock vaults branch off. Currently, only the middle one is in use. The door to the vault is covered with a thick layer of ice and snow, like the entrance to the Snow Queen's cave. We open it and step into the Holy of Holies. This does not look like a laboratory from a science fiction film. It resembles an IKEA warehouse, with the exception that it is extremely cold. Rows of metal shelving stretch away into the darkness. On those shelves sit ordinary plastic bins, black, gray, and blue. Inside these bins lies the future of humanity. Stored here are more than 1 million seed samples, representing over 4,000 plant species. Each sample is packed in special 3-layer foil bags, vacuum-sealed. Let us walk along the rows. We read the markings on the bins: USA, Russia, North Korea, Ukraine, Germany. Here on these shelves, enemies lie next to friends. Geopolitics has no meaning here. Rice seeds from Pyongyang rest in a neighboring bin alongside corn from Washington. This is the only place on Earth where absolute peace has been achieved, a peace of frozen embryos. There is one bin that is especially touching and unsettling. It bears the label ICARDA. That is the International Center for Agricultural Research in the Dry Areas. Their headquarters used to be located in Aleppo, Syria. When the civil war began and the city was reduced to ruins, the Aleppo seed bank became inaccessible.
Scientists could not reach the collection to save the unique heat-resistant wheat varieties. Fortunately, duplicates were here, in Svalbard. In 2015, for the first time in history, the vault's doors opened for an outgoing shipment. The seeds were returned to researchers. They planted them in Morocco and Lebanon, restored the population, and sent new seeds back into the cold. This story proves that the apocalypse is not a theoretical concept. For Syria, it had already arrived on a local scale, and this bunker functioned as intended. But what else is stored in the empty chambers? Perhaps there are servers there. The Arctic World Archive project is already using a nearby abandoned coal mine to store digital data on film that can last 1,000 years. Maybe Svalbard also holds the code of human civilization, the music of Bach, the blueprints of the internet, the recipe for penicillin. The cold preserves everything, and the cold is indifferent. It does not care who will open these doors in 1,000 years, a human, a robot, or an alien archaeologist. The Svalbard Global Seed Vault is the most pessimistic project in history. Think about it. We spend millions of dollars, build a bunker in the permafrost, and protect it like Fort Knox. Why? Because we know the truth about ourselves. We know we are capable of destroying everything. We are a species that saws off the branch it sits on. We pollute the oceans, alter the climate, and create weapons that could incinerate the atmosphere. This place is our admission of our own incompetence as rulers of the planet. It is our reset button, our reboot switch. The price of this truth is bitter. We do not trust ourselves. We built a vault because subconsciously we are certain the main system will collapse. And when you stand there, in the silence, at -1 degree, and look at a box of tomato seeds from some small village in Italy, you realize that perhaps those seeds are the only thing that will remain of Italian culture in 200 years. This place is not for us, the present generation. It is for those who come after. This is a message sealed in a bottle, cast into the ocean of time. The text of the message is straightforward. We made an attempt, we ruined everything, but we have left you the means to make another attempt. Please do not replicate our errors. Yet, given human nature, the hope for that is as fleeting as the northern lights above a bunker's roof. Have you grown cold? Have your fingers turned numb from the Arctic wind? Let us warm ourselves, not by the sun's warmth, but by the heat of enormous processors and the microwave radiation of antennas. We are traveling to the very core of the Australian continent, into the red desert, where kangaroos leap past white spheres that resemble giant golf swords. This is a realm where the sky listens to the earth. These are the ears of Big Brother. We are heading to Pine Gap, the sole location on the planet that knows what you whispered to your lover on the phone and what password you typed into the bank website. Prepare yourselves, you are already being surveilled. Object number 6, Pine Gap. The ear of Big Brother in the red desert. If you ask a ufologist where the extraterrestrial activity hotspot in the southern hemisphere is located, they will unhesitatingly point to a spot on the map near the town of Alice Springs. Pine Gap is Australia's answer to Area 51, only with sky gurus instead of coyotes. Locals and tourists have been recounting tales for years about strange lights in the sky, beams shooting from the ground into space, and triangular crafts that take off silently and vanish within fractions of a second.
Conspiracy theorists are convinced that Pine Gap is not merely a tracking station, but a spaceport for interstellar trade, or a base where humans and aliens collaboratively develop mind control technologies. However, there is a legend far more unsettling and, most troublingly, far more plausible. This is the story of the political assassination of an entire country. In 1975, Australia experienced an unprecedented constitutional crisis. The Governor-General dismissed Prime Minister Gough Whitlam. Why? Officially, due to a parliamentary deadlock. Unofficially, Whitlam had threatened to shut down Pine Gap. He believed that a foreign military base in the heart of his country made Australia a target for a nuclear strike and violated its sovereignty. It is said that the CIA and MI6, Britain's intelligence service, pulled the strings through their connections with the British Crown to remove the inconvenient politician. This is known as a soft coup. If that is true, then Pine Gap is a place so vital that intelligence agencies are willing to topple a democratically elected government of an ally to preserve it. That reveals the true hierarchy of power. First the spies, then the politicians, and only then the people. As you approach the site along the Stuart Highway, you will see nothing at first. The base is hidden in a valley surrounded by the mountains of the MacDonald Ranges. It is an ideal natural bowl, shielding the antennas from external radio signals. But if you climb higher, something that is strictly forbidden, you will quickly be escorted away by polite individuals in jeeps, and a surreal scene will unfold before you. Against the backdrop of rust-red earth and sparse eucalyptus trees, dazzling white geometric spheres, radomes. There are dozens of them. 14, 18, 38. The count shifts, the base expanding like a cancerous tumor. From above, they look like scattered golf balls played by giants. These white domes are made of radiolucent material. Their job is to protect the giant parabolic antennas inside from dust, wind, and prying eyes. No one should see exactly where the dish is pointed, at China, Russia, or the Middle East. The base perimeter is a classic of the genre. Double fencing with electrified barbed wire, motion sensors, and cameras capable of spotting the number on a fly landing on your shoulder. But the main defense here is legal. Pine Gap is, in essence, U.S. territory within Australia. Employees of the NSA, the CIA, and the National Reconnaissance Office work here. Australian laws hold only optional significance. If you breach the perimeter, the Australian Federal Police will arrest you. However, the questioning is likely to be conducted by individuals with American accents in unmarked rooms. The airspace above the base is tightly sealed. Even civilian airliners take a huge detour to avoid flying over the white spheres. Any unidentified object in the sky will be shot down before the pilot can utter the word Mayday. What is happening inside those white domes and the underground bunkers beneath them? The official name of the facility is the RNGAP Joint Defense Complex. The word joint is meant to reassure Australians, but everyone knows who is really in charge. The base's primary mission is to operate the Ariane, Rayleigh, and Mercury series of electronic reconnaissance satellites. Imagine a satellite hovering in geostationary orbit at an altitude of 36,000 kilometers above the equator. Up there, in space, it unfurls an antenna the size of a football pitch. That antenna is a giant ear. It listens to everything. It intercepts telemetry from Russian and Chinese missiles during testing. It captures radar signals from air defense systems. It listens in on military pilots' communications. But that's merely the beginning. RINAR is a critical hub within the global surveillance network known as Echelon and its modern counterparts. Inside the main operations room, referred to by staff as the pit, hundreds of analysts are seated. These are not James Bonds in tuxedos. They are mathematicians, linguists, and programmers in jeans and t-shirts, consuming liters of coffee. Before them lie monitors displaying cascades of code and spectrograms. They sift through an ocean of information: mobile phones, email, satellite communications. Artificial intelligence scans for key terms: bomb, president, jihad, protest. Yet the darkest role of the NSA emerged in the 21st century. This site became the brain center of drone warfare. When an American unmanned aerial vehicle launches a Hellfire missile at a vehicle believed to belong to a suspected terrorist in Yemen or Afghanistan, the control signal does not travel directly from Nevada. Due to the curvature of the Earth, the signal has to travel through the PINAP repeater, And that repeater is exactly what this is. Here, the geolocation of the target is determined using the SIM card signal. Here, analysts decide whether it is a terrorist with an automatic weapon or a farmer with a shovel. And often, to the horror of human rights advocates, mistakes occur. Blood spilled on the sands of the Middle East leaves stains on keyboards in Central Australia. According to leaks, a massively powerful computing center lies underground. Servers hum as they process petabytes of data. Cooling requires enormous amounts of water and energy. Pinap Gap consumes more electricity than the entire city of Alice Springs. Down there are also shielded rooms, Faraday cages, where the most secret operations are discussed. There, decisions are made about who to listen to tomorrow: the German Chancellor, the President of France, or the director of a trading corporation. Why is Pinap a frightening place? Not because of aliens, but because it symbolizes the death of privacy. We live in a world where being alone is no longer possible. Even in the heart of the desert, if you have a phone in your pocket, you are under surveillance. Pine Gap is the all-seeing eye of Sauron in the digital age. This place raises uncomfortable questions about sovereignty. Can a country truly call itself independent if another state operates a base on its soil, dragging it into foreign conflicts? Australians often protest at the facility's gates, labeling it the #1 terrorist target. And they are right. In the event of a global nuclear war, the first missiles would not head for Sydney or Melbourne. They would fly here, to the Red Desert, aiming to blind and deafen America. The price of truth here is the realization that we are all data. Our secrets, our declarations of love, our bank accounts, all of it is nothing more than zeros and ones passing through white domes in the Australian outback, sorted, packaged, and preserved in NSA files for eternity. As Edward Snowden once said, who, by the way, worked for a system that relied on spinap data, you should not hide anything only if you are indifferent to freedom. Let the spies roast under the Australian sun. Let them listen to the airwaves. We will go underground in the most literal sense of the word. Our path leads north, to the capital of a former empire that has always been renowned for its fondness for secrets. To a place where, beneath the feet of millions of unsuspecting subway passengers, a second world exists. A city beneath the city, rails that do not appear on any maps, bunkers capable of withstanding a hydrogen bomb blast.
Prepare your dosimeters and flashlights. We are heading to Moscow. Next stop, Metro 2. Object number 7, Metro 2. The underground chariot of the apocalypse. In Moscow folklore, there is no story more enduring and terrifying than the legend of Metro 2. Officially, it does not exist. For decades, the authorities brushed it aside. What bunkers? What secret tunnels? We have mutant rats 3 meters long. We have no time for tunnels. But every Muscovite in the region has heard that there is another Moscow down below. The system's codename in KGB documents, according to rumors, is D6. Legend has it that Stalin, who was paranoid about assassination attempts in nuclear war, though the bomb appeared later, bunkers began to be built in the 30s, ordered the creation of a duplicate transport network. It is said that the branches of Metro 2 connect the Kremlin, Lubyanka, the Ministry of Defense, bunkers in Ramenki, and the government airport Vnukovo 2, that the tunnels there are wider than those in the regular metro to allow tanks to pass, that the rails are embedded in concrete, enabling Chaika cars and minibuses to drive. The boldest theories claim that under Ramenki, near Moscow State University, there is an entire underground city for 15,000 inhabitants, with cinemas, swimming pools, food supplies for 50 years, and an autonomous nuclear power plant. A survival city for the party elite. While above ground, nuclear ash buries the ruins of Khrushchev-era buildings, down below the general secretaries will drink Georgian wine and watch Wolf Wolf. There are also mystical tales. Diggers whisper about a ghost train that occasionally mistakenly emerges onto regular tracks, collecting passengers' souls and carrying them off into...
Or about enormous rats, because every such story needs them, mutated by underground radiation and capable of biting through a crowbar. But we know that reality is far more terrifying than any mutant. Gaining access to Metro 2 is the holy grail for any digger. And just like with the grail, the attempt may cost you your life. The system's entrances are disguised with diabolical ingenuity. They could be inconspicuous doors in the service areas of ordinary subway stations, for example, at Sportivnaya or Universiteit. They could be ventilation shafts overgrown with bushes in parks, or standard sewer manholes that conceal staircases descending into the endless depths. But do not imagine you can simply go down with a flashlight. The system is protected by volumetric sensors, seismic detectors, and cameras. The moment you breach the perimeter, a silent alarm is triggered.
In a few minutes, you will be greeted not by police officers wielding batons, but by personnel from the FSO, the Federal Protective Service. The exchange will be brief. In the most favorable scenario, you will face a suspended sentence and a restriction on leaving the country. In the worst case, you will be charged with espionage and face actual imprisonment. The worst of all, if you have witnessed something that must not be seen, a tragic accident, you slipped and fell into a shaft, it can be dark after all. At the junctions where the regular metro meets the secret one, such gateways exist for transferring trains. Massive airtight barriers are installed. Steel doors half a meter thick, capable of withstanding the shockwave of a nuclear explosion and flooding. They are always sealed shut. Nearby stand security posts equipped with special communication phones. It is rumored that automatic turrets and systems for releasing knockout gas have been installed in the D6 tunnel.
Whether this is fact or fiction, few are willing to test it on their own skin. Imagine we are shadows. We have passed through concrete. We are standing on a platform of a station that does not appear on the map. There is no marble here, no mosaics featuring Lenin. Here, functional minimalism reigns supreme. Concrete walls, the dim yellow glow of sparse lamps, cables as thick as a Sanicondu stretching along the vaults. The air is stale, smelling of ozone, creosote, and metal shavings. The tunnels here are single-track. The rails are indeed embedded in concrete slabs. This allows for the use of specialized rolling stock. Ordinary blue carriages do not run here. Short contact battery electric locomotives L or diesel rail cars travel here. In recent years, rumors say that modern rail buses have appeared. The speed of movement here is higher than in the civilian metro. There are no stops, no passengers blocking the doors. From the Kremlin to Vnukovo, you can get there in 15 minutes.
An ideal evacuation route. We are walking along the tunnel towards Raminki. Depth is 200 meters. The pressure on the ears is noticeable. Now we pass a branch leading to Stalin's bunker in Izmailovo. It is now a museum, but who knows what lies deeper. And here is a turn towards the general staff. Under Raminki, there is indeed a cyclopean structure. It is not just a bunker. This is a multi-level complex. Command posts, communication hubs ensuring the management of the country's nuclear arsenal, the perimeter or dead hand system, and air filtration systems capable of purifying the air from radioactive dust and chemical agents. The interiors here are frozen in time. Parquet floors, carpet runners, oak tables covered with green baize, rotary dial telephones, direct communication lines. Portraits of leaders may have been removed, but the spirit of that era, when the world teetered on the brink of destruction, preserved food supplies are stored in the dining halls, canned meat, condensed milk, alcohol, and medical supply depots. Everything is replenished on a scheduled basis. The system is alive. It awaits its moment. It breathes. Do you hear that low-frequency hum? It is the sound of giant fans forcing air through the lungs of this subterranean monster. Sometimes, very rarely, at night, residents of houses near ventilation kiosks hear strange noises coming from underground, a rumbling of wheels, unlike that of a regular subway. They are either running drills or transporting something that cannot be moved through Moscow's streets. Gold reserves, classified archives, new weaponry. Metro 2 is the physical incarnation of the government's cynicism. Every nation has bunkers for its leadership. That is standard practice. Someone must command the army if the capital gets bombed. Yet the scope is astonishing. This is a parallel reality.
The public metro was constructed as a palace for the people, while Metro 2 was built as an ark for the elite. The cost of this truth is both straightforward and brutal. In the event of a global disaster, tickets for that train will never go on sale. When the sirens start to howl, ordinary metro stations will seal their airtight doors, transforming into mass graves or makeshift shelters without food or water. Meanwhile, 100 meters below, through brightly lit tunnels, trains will race carrying those who pushed the red button. The existence of Metro 2 serves as a reminder that equality is merely a peacetime fantasy. In the face of death, we split into those who will perish instantly and those who will witness the end of the world from a comfortable bunker equipped with an oxygen regeneration system. This secret is guarded not because aliens are hidden there, but because it reveals the true value of a human life in the eyes of the state. And that value is unless you hold a pass with a gold embossing. Feeling cramped underground? Yearning for open space? Don't celebrate just yet. The openness I'm about to offer you is even more lethal. We're heading to a place where the soil is poisoned and the water glows in the dark, figuratively speaking, though this is the site of a mistake that changed the world. But we aren't going to Chernobyl. Chernobyl is pop stuff, a tourist attraction with souvenir magnets. We're going to the birthplace of the Soviet atomic bomb, a closed city that didn't appear on maps for 40 years. A place where, at Lake Karachay, you could receive a lethal dose of radiation just by standing on its shore for 5 minutes. Get your Geiger counter ready, it will crackle like mad. We are traveling to Ozersk, Chelyabinsk 40, and to the Mayak plant. Object number 8. Ozersk, Chelyabinsk 40, a city that kisses plutonium. For the uninitiated, Ozersk is merely a spot on the map. But for those who are in the know, that name resonates like a hammer strike. It was right here, in an environment of the strictest secrecy overseen by Lavrenti Beria, that the Soviet counter to America was forged. The USSR's first plutonium bomb was constructed from material produced in the reactors of Mayak. Legends surrounding this location propagate faster than uranium nuclei can split. The most well-known tale is the Kishtim dwarf, Alyoshenka. In the 1990s, in a village near Ozersk, within the radioactive fallout zone, a strange being was discovered. It was tiny, with a cone-shaped head. Ufologists declared it an extraterrestrial. Skeptics claimed a mutant miscarriage. The creature vanished, leaving behind nothing more than grainy video recordings and curses. Everyone who had any contact with it perished under peculiar circumstances. Locals believe that the lighthouse's radiation opens portals to other dimensions or distorts genetics, causing nature to birth monsters. Other legends speak of burial grounds and lakes whose floors are lined with barrels of waste glowing with a blue light, the Cherenkov effect. Fishermen are said to catch pike with 2 heads and eyeless perch there. But the most terrifying legend is the truth. The truth about the year 1957. About an explosion that, in terms of long-lived isotope release, was more powerful than Chernobyl, yet the world remained silent about it for 30 years. The Kishtim accident. While the West speculated about what had happened, Soviet soldiers and prisoners, the bio-robots of that era, scraped up radioactive soil with their bare hands. Ozersk is a closed administrative territorial entity. It is not just a fence. It is a wall separating one world from another. The city's perimeter is guarded by troops of the Russian National Guard.
A double row of barbed wire, a control trace strip like on a state border, watchtowers with sentries. Getting inside from the outside is impossible. You cannot simply buy a bus ticket and go visit your aunt. You need a pass. The pass must be ordered 1.5 to 2 months in advance. You are checked by the FSB. If you have a criminal record, relatives abroad, or are simply considered a suspicious individual, you will receive a refusal with no explanation given. Inside the city, its own set of rules applies. You may only photograph children and cats. Did you aim your camera at a factory chimney or a checkpoint? Welcome to a conversation with Comrade Major. Bringing phones and flash drives onto the actual territory of the Mayak plant is strictly forbidden. This city is an aquarium. The residents feel safe inside. There is almost no crime. Everyone is one of their own. But they are cut off from the outside world by the glass of the regime.
They live in a gilded cage, where the bars are replaced by non-disclosure agreements and higher salaries for hazardous work. If we manage to get onto the industrial side of Mayak, the Geiger counter in our pocket will go berserk. Here lies the heart of the nuclear industry, the reactors, the first industrial uranium boilers. Reactor A1, affectionately nicknamed Anushka, was the very reactor that produced plutonium for the first atomic bomb. It is now shut down and has been converted into a museum, though it still emits significant radiation. However, the most terrifying place on Earth is not this reactor. It is Lake Karachay-59. In the 1950s, engineers with little regard for environmental concerns due to the escalating arms race decided to dump highly radioactive liquid waste directly into this swamp. The result? Karachay became the most polluted location on the planet. In the 1990s, if you had stood on the lake's shore for 1 hour, you would have received a dose of 600 Röntgens. That is a certain death sentence. You would have died within a couple of weeks in terrible agony, decomposing while still alive. The lake has now been filled in. Concrete blocks and rocky soil lie on top. It looks like an ordinary field, but beneath that concrete, a dragon slumbers. Groundwater is slowly but steadily spreading strontium-90 and cesium-137. There is also the Techa cascade of reservoirs. The Techa River is the radioactive vein of the Urals. Along its banks still stand villages surrounded by barbed wire. It is impossible to live there, yet people did. They drank the water, washed their clothes, and watered their vegetable gardens. River disease. That was what doctors called chronic radiation sickness to avoid writing the truth in their diagnoses. Inside the workshops of Mayak today, spent nuclear fuel from across the country and abroad is reprocessed. These are enormous pools of blue water, where, in silence, rods lie that hold the energy of 1,000 suns. Robots and manipulators move them behind thick windows made of lead glass. People in white suits, resembling astronauts, monitor the instruments. Here, isotopes for medicine and industry are produced. Here, heat sources for space satellites are made. It is a triumph of science and its curse. Why is Azersk still closed? Not only because of the secrets of plutonium production. Many countries learned to build the bomb long ago. The city is closed because it is a crime scene, a crime against nature and humanity. In 1957, a waste storage tank exploded, container number 14. A radioactive cloud covered a strip 300 kilometers long, 20,000 square kilometers of territory, and 270,000 people were exposed to radiation. People were evicted, villages were burned and plowed under by tractors. On maps, this place was called Vers, the East Ural Radioactive Trace. Now it is a nature reserve. Mushrooms there grow to the size of a stool, but eating them means glowing in the dark. The price of truth is the health of generations. It is genetic mutations passed from fathers to children. It is the silence of doctors. Ozyorsk is a monument to how easily the state sacrifices people for a higher cause. We must remember that the nuclear shield is never free. It is paid for not in rubles, but in white blood cells and life expectancy. But the residents of Ozyorsk love their city. This is the paradox of Stockholm Syndrome. They are proud of their mission. We are the nuclear shield of the motherland. And this evokes a strange mix of respect and horror. They live on a volcano that warms them and slowly kills them. We shake off radioactive dust. We take a potassium iodide pill. It is time for us to leave. Our journey leads us westward across the ocean to the United States, but we are not heading to Disneyland. We are going into the forest, to a private club for the richest and most powerful men in America. There, among the sequoias, presidents and bankers worship a giant stone owl and burn a symbolic effigy of their worries. Conspiracy theorists label this location the headquarters of the secret world government. Prepare your tuxedos and masks. We are infiltrating Bohemian Grove. Object number 9, Bohemian Grove. A summer camp for the rulers of the world. If you believe that a handful of individuals seated at a single table governs the globe, then Bohemian Grove is their dining hall. Officially, it is merely a private men's club. The Bohemian Club, established in 1872 by journalists and artists, is a venue where esteemed gentlemen can relieve themselves on a tree. Literally, that is one of its traditions, a release from social conventions and a chance to unwind from wives and work. The club's motto? Spiders weaving webs do not come here, meaning no business discussions occur. Yet conspiracy theorists mock this very motto. Legend has it that right here, among the ancient sequoias, the Manhattan Project, the creation of the atomic bomb, was launched in 1942. Oppenheimer and the generals discussed the details, not in the Pentagon, but here, around a campfire. Rumors attribute satanic rituals to this place. At the center of the grove stands a 12-meter concrete statue of an owl. a symbol of wisdom and the ability to see in the dark. In front of it, a performance called Cremation of Care takes place. People in robes, reminiscent of Druid garments or Ku Klux Klan attire, burn an effigy on an altar, symbolizing worldly anxieties. To an outside observer, this looks like a pagan sacrifice.
Alex Jones, a well-known conspiracy theorist who infiltrated the site in 2000, claimed they were sacrificing children. Of course, it was an effigy, but the atmosphere itself. The myth of the Bohemian Grove is the myth that democracy is a facade, that real decisions are made not in the White House, but here. Under the hooting of an owl, when U.S. presidents, almost all Republicans, were club members, oil magnates and media moguls would negotiate oil prices and decide who would become the next president. Bohemian Grove spans 2,700 acres, over 1,000 hectares, of dense forest in Sonoma County. Gaining entry here is more difficult than stepping into the Oval Office. The waiting list for club membership ranges from 15 to 20 years. The initiation fee amounts to tens of thousands of dollars. Annual dues are likewise beyond the reach of ordinary mortals. The perimeter security here is one of a kind.
It is not soldiers carrying automatic rifles as in Area 51. Rather, it is a private security force staffed by retired agents from the Secret Service, the FBI, and the CIA. These individuals know every senator and every billionaire by face. They have mastered the art of being invisible, yet effective. The forest is riddled with motion sensors and hidden cameras disguised as tree knots and rocks. Drones patrol the skies. The local county sheriff's police cooperate with the club's security, aggressively thwarting any attempt at intrusion. Journalists here are as welcome as cockroaches in the kitchen of a Michelin-starred restaurant. During the annual gathering in July, when the world's elite flock to the Grove, security measures are escalated to the point of absurdity. Helicopters, motorcades, snipers positioned in the trees. The Rusfer River, which flows nearby, is patrolled by boats. If you are caught inside, you will not simply be escorted out. You will be added to the blacklists of every federal agency. Your career will be over, and your life will become a nightmare of inspections and rejections. So what actually happens within? Setting aside the mystique, it resembles a scout camp for extremely wealthy old men. The area is divided into camps. Each one has its own name and status. Mandalay is the most elite. Presidents, secretaries of state, and heads of the military-industrial complex stay there. Wooden cabins, a bar featuring the most expensive alcohol in the world, a fireplace, bearskins, hillbilly, caveman M, Lostnans. The names sound playful. A relaxed atmosphere prevails. Men. Women are strictly forbidden entry, except for service personnel during certain hours. Attendees wear casual clothing and sometimes urinate on trees. Yes, that is true. They consume whiskey by the liter and smoke cigars. They watch performances called lakeside talks, lectures held by the lake. This is where the most interesting events take place. These are not entertainment shows. They are reports on geopolitics, economics, and the future of science. Here, without ties or protocols, real problems are discussed. How do we contain China? What should be done about the population? Is it worth investing in artificial intelligence? Imagine Henry Kissinger sitting on a log with a glass of martini, discussing the new war in the Middle East with the head of Lockheed Martin, while former President Bush laughs nearby. This is high-level informal networking. Friendships are forged here that later turn into political alliances. Decisions are made here about who will receive an IMF loan and who will face sanctions. The ritual of burning worries is the culmination. At night, by torchlight, a procession in Bohemian Grove carries a coffin containing an effigy toward the statue of an owl.
Grim music plays, accompanied by special effects. The owl's voice proclaims that worries must die. They burn the effigy. This is a form of psychotherapy. They incinerate their responsibilities, their fears, their conscience. They purify themselves so they can return to the world and once again make harsh, sometimes ruthless decisions with a clear mind. Why does Bohemian Grove frighten people? Because it violates the central principle of democracy, transparency. We elect politicians to serve us, yet they retreat into the woods, drink with bankers, and decide our destinies behind closed doors. This fosters the sense that we are nothing more than pawns. Bohemian Grove is evidence that class society has never vanished. There are them, the elite, who live by their own rules inside their private club, and there is us. Everyone else, permitted to see only a curated version of reality on television. Conspiracy theories here do not emerge from nowhere. When the world's most powerful people gather in secret, a natural question arises: who are they uniting against? But perhaps the truth is even more mundane. It is simply a club of old friends who want to spend time together, without cameras, without the press, without the need to be politically correct. They want to feel like ordinary guys out in the woods. The only problem is that when these ordinary guys sneeze, the whole world comes down with the flu. Not fond of the scent of cigars and power? Do you crave something more ancient, more pure, yet no less exclusive? We head east, to Japan. There stands a shrine that has been torn down and rebuilt every 20 years for 1,300 years. A place where a mirror is kept that, according to legend, once belonged to the sun goddess Amaterasu herself. No mortal, except for the emperor and the priestesses, has ever laid eyes on what lies within. We are going to the Ise sanctuary. Get ready to take off your We are entering the realm of the gods. Object number 10. The Grand Shrine of Ise, the mirror of the sun goddess. If the Vatican is the heart of Catholicism, then Ise Grand Shrine is the soul of Japan. Yet unlike the Vatican, which welcomes millions of tourists to gawk at the Sistine Chapel, the most sacred treasure here is hidden behind 4 fences. Legend holds that within this shrine lies one of the 3 imperial regalia of Japan, the sacred mirror known as Yata no Kagami. According to myth, this mirror was forged by the gods to lure the sun goddess Amaterasu from the cave where she had hidden, plunging the world into darkness. When she glimpsed her own reflection, she emerged, and light returned to the earth. Later, Amaterasu bequeathed the mirror to her grandson, Ninigi no Mikoto, the first emperor of Japan, with the words, "Look upon this mirror as if you were looking upon me." Since that time, the mirror has been far more than a mere object. It is a vessel for the goddess's spirit. Conspiracy theorists and mystics whisper that the mirror is an ancient artifact from an unknown civilization. Perhaps it is a communicator screen, or a holographic star chart, or a device capable of controlling solar activity. There is a legend that no living person has ever laid eyes on the mirror itself. Even the emperor, during his rituals, beholds only the case in which it is stored. It is said that anyone who dares to peer into it without authorization will be blinded or driven mad by the truth they see. The very layout of the shrine is shrouded in secrecy. Every 20 years, beginning in the 7th century and pausing only for wars, the entire complex is torn down and reconstructed on an adjacent. This ceremony is called Shikinen Sengu. The underlying principle is that what endures is not the material, but the form and spirit. Physical substance must be renewed in order to remain pure. This is arguably the largest and most costly performance in the world centered on death and rebirth. The security in Sengu represent a masterpiece of Japanese psychology. There are no checkpoints bristling with machine guns. Protection begins at the Uji Bridge over the Isuzu River. As you cross it, you are symbolically cleansed, leaving worldly impurities behind on the far shore. The entire sanctuary sits within an immense primeval forest, where the trees are 800 years old. It is forbidden to cut them down, except in cases where wood is needed for constructing a new temple. The main sanctuary of Naiku, the inner sanctuary, is surrounded by 4 rows of wooden fences. An ordinary pilgrim may approach only the first gate, where a white cloth, misu, hangs, obscuring the view. Beyond that lies Bu. Only high-ranking clergy and members of the imperial family may proceed further. But even they cannot enter the Shoden sanctuary itself, where the mirror is kept. Only the high priest or high priestess enters there. Usually, this is the emperor's daughter or sister, and the emperor himself during coronation rituals. The security here consists of the imperial guard and the prefectural special police, yet they are nearly invisible. They blend in with the walls of centuries-old cypress trees. However, the security system here is modern. Hidden beneath the traditional thatched roof are smoke, heat, and motion sensors. The forest is patrolled by drones. Any attempt to climb over the fence will be stopped instantly, very politely but firmly. You will not be beaten. You will simply be neutralized and handed over to the authorities for insulting a sacred site. And in Japan, this offense is viewed as worse than murder in the eyes of society. Imagine the
We have become kami spirits and flown over 4 fences. What would we see? Golden statues? Precious gems?
No, we would see absolute ringing simplicity. The main building, shrouded, is a wooden hut on stilts with a thatched roof. The Shinmei-zukuri style is the oldest architectural style in Japan, reminiscent of Yayoi-era rice granaries. The wood is unpainted. It is Japanese hinoki cypress. It is as smooth as silk and smells of lemon and pine needles. There is not a single nail. Everything is held together by intricate grooves and tenons. Around the building, white pebble stones are scattered. They crunch underfoot, warning of anyone's approach. Inside shrouded, darkness prevails. There is no electricity, only the light of oil lamps. At the very center, in a multi-layered casket wrapped in brocade, lies it, the Yata no Kagami mirror. It has the shape of an 8-petaled flower, or a sun with rays. According to the descriptions of medieval monks, it is made of bronze or nickel.
But who knows? Perhaps it is a meteorite polished to a mirror-like sheen. The atmosphere inside is a concentration of sacredness. Here, time seems to have come to a standstill. The air is so pure that breathing it is painful. This is a place where Japan connects with its past. Next to the main sanctuary, there is an empty patch covered with gravel. This is Kanti, the plot for the next temple. It is waiting. In the year 2033, new construction will begin here. The old temple will be dismantled, and its parts will be distributed to other shrines across the country, so that a fragment of holiness may spread throughout the islands. Why is the Ise shrine closed? Why can the mirror not be displayed at the museum in Tokyo? Because secrecy is the glue that holds the nation together. The Emperor of Japan is the only monarch in the world who is still officially regarded as a descendant of the gods, albeit symbolically after 1940. The legitimacy of the imperial house rests on these 3 regalia: the sword, the jewel, and the mirror. If a mirror is presented and it turns out to be merely an old piece of bronze from China, the enchantment will fade, the myth will perish, and along with that myth, a portion of the Japanese soul will cease to exist. Idengu does not guard an object, it safeguards an idea. The idea that there are things beyond our comprehension, beyond science, beyond curiosity. In an era where everything can be looked up online, where everything is displayed on Instagram, IS remains a bastion of the unknowable. It teaches us humility. We are not entitled to know everything. There are doors that must remain shut. We have completed our journey. We have traversed the Nevada desert and the Arctic ice, the Vatican vaults and the forests of California. We have witnessed 10 places that proclaim to us, "You are not welcome here." What ties them all together? Fear. Fear of governments toward their people. Fear of humans toward nature. Fear of losing control. Fear of the future and the past. All these fences, bunkers, and classification stamps are erected not to shield something within. They were built to shield our fragile outer world from a truth that could shatter it. We exist under the delusion of security and awareness, yet in reality, the map of the world is riddled with empty spaces, blacked out by the marker of censorship. Thank you for accompanying me on this journey. You now possess slightly more knowledge than is permitted. And knowledge isn't just power, it's also a bullseye on your back. Clear your browsing history, erase any memory of having watched this, and never, do you hear me? Never fix your gaze for too long on the white vans parked outside your home.